Egypt is a deep-rooted and established agricultural country, and the Egyptian Agricultural Museum is proof of this. This lofty monument contains 10 museums, starting with the Ancient Egyptian Agriculture Museums and ending with the Heritage Acquisitions Museum, which contains a collection of paintings, statues, pieces of furniture and building arts, and they're all highly rare and have wonderful taste. The Agricultural Museum was established during King Fuad's reign, aiming at spreading agricultural and economical information in Egypt and to record the long history of the Egyptian agriculture from the prehistoric age till the modern era. The palace of Princess Fatma Ismail, daughter of Khedive Ismail, was chosen for her great support in establishing the Cairo University. Princess Fatma had relinquished her palace, which houses the museum now, with an area of 30 fidans, to be the headquarters of the Cairo University in 1914, but the university got its current headquarters. On November 1929, the cabinet issued a decree to establish the Egyptian Agricultural Museum in the palace of Princess Fatma Ismail, and the palace was headed to the Ministry of Agriculture in 1930. The ministry made some architectural changes in the palace to turn it into a museum. The designers of the Agricultural Museum in Budapest were called to design and build the Egyptian Agricultural Museum, which was built according to the European style of the Gothic age. The museum was divided into 3 buildings. The first is to show everything concerning plant life, in addition to the rare and extinct plants. The second building is for everything concerning wildlife and animals, whilst the third building contains acquisitions, items and agricultural tools that show the development of the Egyptian agriculture from prehistoric times until now. It was divided later into 2 museums. The first is the Egyptian Agricultural in the Pharaonic Period Museum, and the second is the Egyptian Agricultural in the Greek, Roman, Coptic and Islamic eras Museum. The entrance and facade of the palace is decorated with plant and animal decorations and engravings as a symbol of the museum's message, and other buildings were added to the museum, in addition to a cinema, a lecturers' hall and a library. All had the same architectural style of the palace. The entrance of the museum is a big hall containing a symbolic statue of the Nile dedicated by the Vatican, depicting the river as a man with big muscles holding some seed tufts in his right hand as a symbol of the valley's bounty, leaning on a sphinx surrounded by 16 children playing and having fun. At the base of the statue there is a map made of valuable crystal for the Nile Valley's countries, and next to it a model of 2 statues carved out of black granite representing the god Happy, and each of them is standing on an altar with decorations of fish, birds and lotus stalks. In the entrance too, there's a table on which there's a ledger to record important visits and King Farouk was the first to sign it. It was officially inaugurated in 1938 in the presence of King Farouk, who was Egypt's king then, and so it was the first museum in the world that specialized in agriculture, and it preceded the other agricultural museums like the museums of Budapest and Copenhagen. The total area of the museum is 30 fadans, the equivalent of 521,000 square meters. The buildings of the museum occupy 20,000 meters, whilst the rest of the area is a number of gardens containing a lot of rare trees and plants, green areas and greenhouses, in addition to 2 Pharaonic-style gardens. Ancient historians say that Egypt was the gift of the Nile. The Egyptians, in their efforts to make use of the great river and build their great civilization since prehistoric times until today, prove that the world was the gift of Egypt, as its civilization is the mother of all civilizations. The Egyptian Agricultural Museum is unique compared to all world museums, as it has a collection of the rarest comprehensive ancient agricultural collections that tell the story of the development of the ancient Egyptian agriculture since prehistoric times till modern ones in the 19th century AD. This museum specializes in the period from prehistoric times till the end of the Pharaonic era. Walking around the museum sheds light on agriculture and the rural society and industries, as well as animal husbandry in ancient Egypt. It consists of 2 floors. The first is for hunting tool, farmers' tools, field and orchard crops, vegetables, medicine and aromatic plants and flowers, as well as different types of bread, and also textile and agricultural industries, grains, and there are quantities of wheat from different ages, some of them dating back to more than 7,000 years. museum also exhibits samples of pies, flour, honey, butter and samples of vegetables like onions, garlic and molokhaya seeds. It also exhibits one of the rarest collections of the most important ancient Egyptian plants that were used in making flower bouquets and funerary wreaths, rare samples of finely made linen fabrics which were known as royal fabrics, whilst the Greeks called it air fabrics, in addition to papyrus leaves and papyrus writing paper. The second floor of the museum is dedicated to show animal life, mummified animals, the birds the ancient Egyptians used to hunt like ducks, geese, cranes and the bird ibis, which was one of the sacred birds and a symbol of the god of knowledge, medicine and science. In front of the museum, there's a garden with a pharaonic design having a water basin and the trees, plants, flowers and statues ancient Egypt was famous for. The museum continues the ancient Egyptian agriculture in the Greek, Roman, Coptic and Islamic eras to reach the modern age. Contains scientific collections arranged according to the sound scientific classification, and some of them according to the historical investigation of agricultural elements with the paces of modern improvement in the agricultural field. It consists of 2 floors. The first exhibits the rural society concerning the life of Egyptian peasants, their habits, traditions and deep-rooted values, showing their weddings, handicrafts and folks arts, as well as healthy nutrition for man in the different stages of his life. There is also an exhibition for the diseases prevalent in the Egyptian countryside and how to prevent them, in addition to a section dedicated to the land and the different reclamation projects. Improving the soil and protecting it from deterioration, and also the sources of irrigation water and irrigation, as well as drainage systems and tools used in them, are all there. There is also a model of the High Dam project and its economical, agricultural, industrial and social effects, in addition to the charity barrages and the Aswan Dam.
المتحف الزراعي هو اللي فكر في إنشائه الملك فؤاد الأول.
The one who came up with the idea of establishing this museum was King Fuad I. At that time, Egypt had an outstanding agricultural position, so it was necessary to establish an agricultural museum matching our agricultural prowess. King Fuad used Hungarian experts because Hungary was the first country that established a similar museum. He made use of Descartes, who was the director of the Budapest Museum. He'd worked there for 2 years. Then Mr. Ivan Nagy stepped into his shoes for 2 years and he was followed by Muhammad. After King Fuad died, his son Farouk followed his father's footsteps. The museum was inaugurated on January the 16th in 1938. The Agricultural Museum is basically a museum of scientific groups. The museum's building was the palace of Princess Fatma Ismail, King Farouk's aunt. They chose this place in particular as it was close to the Ministry of Agriculture, so it could aid them with the needed scientific materials from different scientific sections. The target of establishing it was to display the different crops of the Egyptian soil and shed light on our economic condition. The museum is considered the second museum after Budapest. It's the first one in the Middle East. The museum consists of 2 floors. The first hall on the ground floor includes the maps hall of the Egyptian agricultural crops such as rice, beans, lentils and corn. The other hall displays the rural life. Here we can see the wedding procession where they go from one village to another. That's exactly what Ahmed ibn Talun did when he married his daughter Qatr al-Nada off to the successor Il-Mu'tamad Abbasi. The bride used to sit in her hauja that goes from a village to another. Nagarzan band used to walk in front of them. The torch carried used to walk in the middle. Lighting the torch means the start of the wedding procession. And then the bride goes to her house. The bride's family stays behind, carrying gifts and supper for her. Here we can see the market. Each village has a specific day showing their textiles and dairy products like butter, cheese and eggs. They also have animal products and birds on that day. Coffee represents the entertainment part of the village. At night, the whole villagers gather after a long day working at the farms to rest and enjoy listening to folk songs and playing the flute. The other ones play the backgammon. This is the village's mayor discussing a problem with one of the villagers. There's a special section for the governorate's costumes like Shar'iyya, Munufiyya and Gharbiyya. There's also special costumes for Sinai Bedouins. Here is the home of the rural wedding. The marriage ceremony takes place in the first hall, where the official register, the bride's father, the groom, and the witnesses sit. The celebrations of the marriage take place in the second hall, where they have dinner and supper. The bride sits in the last room along with her relatives. Here is dry sweet candy, which is an old habit that goes back to the Fatimid era. Here is a design for the Aswan Dam and designs for the aqueducts found in Egypt. These include Isna, Naga Hammadi, Dairut and Asyut. floor shows the animal and poultry wealth and the horses with emphasis on the Arabian horses, products of animals and poultry and ways of manufacturing them, in addition to exhibit of animal health, disease, how to prevent them and how to treat them. There's also a collection of embalmed wild birds in Egypt and migrating birds according to their habitat, wild animals, fish and sea creatures. The museum does not neglect shedding light on scientific and economical values of insects, showing a rare collection of fireflies. Another museum unique as it has the rarest collection of genetic origins of Egyptian and foreign cottons. Although Egypt wasn't the original country of cotton, the efforts of its scientists and farmers have linked that crop with Egypt so that Egyptian cotton would assume the highest position in world markets. The Cotton Museum exhibits everything related to cotton, starting from the area of the lands growing cotton since 1925, with a map showing the development of the Egyptian cotton types which were introduced in 1818, the stages of growing cotton and rare photographs for gathering cotton, transporting it and its stages of production, in addition to models of all the machines used in manufacturing cotton in its different stages like spinning, weaving and ginning. There's also a rare collection of cotton fabrics and a collection of old broidery needles, peasants' handicrafts and authentic arts, on top of which cotton embroidery on leather, in addition to the rarest manual ginning wheel found in Chad. The Ancient Egyptian Agricultural Museum is equipped with the latest projection machines with audio playing of music inspired by ancient Egyptian arts, a video broadcast of the exhibited ancient artifacts, and the museum has laboratories for archiving, maintaining, restoring artifacts and protection against insects and microscopic creatures.